and welcome back everyone, and I have for you another top moments from a challenge champion. This time, we're talking about Kaycee Clark. Kaycee Clark made her reality TV debut on CBS's Big Brother Season 20, where she won against her BFF, Tyler. She would make her challenge debut on Season 35 Total Madness, where she would make the finals, and basically we know the story from there. I have gone through all of Kaycee's seasons and picking out what I deem the top 5 moments from her challenge career so far. This list is purely subjective and based off of my opinions and assessments. If you do not agree with this list or what I chose for her top 5 moments, don't get angry. Just let me know down in the comment section below what you think should be either higher or lower, and why. Now, before we go into the top 5 moments, let's go over some honorable mentions. Let's talk about her mid-final elimination win against Nany. Nany and Kaycee were on the losing squad in day 1 of those finals. Pitting them against each other, this was very emotional, but because their team lost, one of them had to be sent home, and Kaycee won the Back Me Up elimination. Next up, we have 2 eliminations from the World Championship. We have Herculean Strength, where Kaycee and Ben won against Wes and Zara. Kaycee really didn't have much to do in this elimination but hold up some weights. And then the Spin Me Round elimination, the first elimination where Troy and Kaycee were paired up with each other. They had great communication. They worked well with each other despite them being in an elimination the same episode that they were paired up with each other. They were able to do a great job. Now let's get into the top 5, starting at number 5. And we will start things off with Kaycee's first career elimination win, which came in Season 35 Total Madness. Red Skulls helped force people to want to go into eliminations, and in Episode 9, Kaycee took part in the double elimination. She was set up to face Kayla. Now Kaycee is athletic, but Kayla was no pushover, because by this time, Kayla only had 1 elimination loss, and that came in Season 29. So this was set to be a really good matchup. But the Bombs Away elimination really favored Kaycee's strength of, well, strength. The point of the elimination was to throw all the medicine balls out of their dumpster and be the first to hit the button. Kaycee was able to win this with ease. Now, Kayla was going through a lot on the season, given that she had a boyfriend back home, but she was pursuing someone romantically inside the house, and with that on her mind, probably played a factor in this elimination, but that's besides the point. When you're in elimination, everything has to melt away and you just have to perform, which Kayla did not in this moment, and Kaycee was able to take this win and pretty much show everybody why she should not be messed with in anything that deals with physical eliminations. Number 4 takes place in the World Championship, where we have Kaycee and Troy facing off against Darrell and Kiki in the breakthrough elimination. Now, for context, in episode 10, Kaycee and Troy were voted in to face off against fellow Australian team Darrell and Kiki by the other Australian team of Emily and Yes. This was an Australian civil war, and the 2 Australian winners and friends of Kiki and Troy were having to face off against each other, and then you have the added champs of Darrell and Kaycee on top of that. The breakthrough elimination was pretty complex, testing players on their math skills, their teamwork, their puzzle solving skills, and endurance. With how strong these 2 teams were, the margin of error was so slim. If anybody stumbled, it would leave a giant window for a team to overtake the other one. And that happened in this elimination. Kaycee and Troy were able to play flawlessly, gaining a lead over Darrell and Kiki in the math portion and never looking back. Darrell and Kiki never made it to the second stage past the plywood wall to the second puzzle, and because this was such a landslide elimination win, that's why I have it at number 4, despite them winning against such a strong pair of Darrell and Kiki. Also, I think Troy did a lot of the math work, and I couldn't tell who did most of the puzzle in the background, so it was hard to tell the contributions of who did what or who did more between Kaycee and Troy, and that's why I have it down at number 4. Now cracking into the top 3, at number 3, I have chosen her win in Season 37. Now, I know this looks weird to have Kaycee's win in the Challenge 37 as her third best moment, but if you look at her performance in the final, it wasn't her best showing on the challenge. Now don't get me wrong, Kaycee is a strong competitor, but her strength and social game has helped mask deficiencies in other aspects like strategy and politics. The format really helped Kaycee's resume look better than what it could have been. She won a total of 6 daily challenges, but 5 came when she was on the dominant Emerald team. Now she only saw 1 elimination on the season, and that came in the middle of the finals, which I previously mentioned in her honorable mentions moment. But before we can even get to that point of the finals, we need to talk about the finals in general. For context, it was impressive seeing Kaycee run another final so soon after getting surgery on a ruptured patella tendon she suffered in the previous season's final. However, it looked like it was going to be an uphill battle for her, and her team was consistently behind. They lost the first day, and because they lost the first day, Kaycee had to face off against Nany in an elimination. After winning against Nany, she got to choose any of the men to be partnered with in the final stage of the final. Kaycee picked CT to be her partner, and it was pretty much a wrap at that point. And even though the edit was trying to make it seem like Kaycee and CT just barely won against Tori and Kyle, just mere seconds separated them, I just don't think it was that much of a surprise that Kaycee and CT were able to win first place at the end of these finals. It's just kind of disheartening to see somebody lose 80 to 85% minimum of the entire final and almost get rewarded for not doing very well in the first day. Kaycee won fair and square. She played within the rules. She played the format that was laid out in front of her, and she was deemed the winner by the end of the episode, as well as it was impressive to see her compete and win so soon after the surgery that she had to do and the massive injury that she suffered just 1 season prior. But taking the finals as a whole and seeing the performance from the beginning till the end, I felt like the highest it could go is 3 and could not crack into the top 2. For Kaycee's second best moment in her challenge career so far, we're gonna go to season 36, Double Agents. Midway through the season, Kaycee went down into the crater to get her gold skull against Teresa. Teresa was always looked at as an athletic, tough, physical competitor. It was also her first season back on the challenge since Battle of the Exes 2 season 26. Teresa and Kaycee would face off against each other in the snapping point elimination, which looked to be a possible Battle of the Titans highly contested scrum between the 2 women. Basically, it was going to be a strategic reverse tug of war where the 2 women were going to be tethered to one another, and they were going to have to use their leverage to get from one side of the ring to the other, collecting rings and bringing them back to their side. Because of the reverse tug of war aspect to the elimination, Kaycee had the advantage given she had a bit more muscle and mass compared to Teresa. Therefore, Kaycee was able to get the better of Teresa the whole time and get this challenge win. This being only one of a few of Kaycee's solo elimination wins, I felt like it needed to be higher up on this list, but because she was going up against Teresa, who does not have a really good track record in eliminations, I felt like this was Kaycee's elimination to lose. It couldn't get the top spot, and speaking of which, let's jump to that number 1 moment, and I'm talking about Kaycee versus Emily in the Hall Brawl elimination in the World Championship. Throughout the entirety of the World Championship, there was a rivalry between the 2 Australian teams of Troy and Kaycee and Emily and Yes. In the final elimination of the season, TJ gave Kaycee and Troy the option to choose any team to go against, and they chose their country rivals. The matchup looked fairly even. Emily was a little taller than Kaycee, but Kaycee had played contact sports in her life, alluding that she knew the technique to help her and Troy get the win. The men were up first, and Troy was able to snag the first point away from Yes, leaving it up to Kaycee, where if she got the win, they would automatically lock in for the final. In the second round, Emily put up a great fight and was more physical than Kaycee. At the point the 2 split paths, Emily was closer to her bell, ringing it just before Kaycee could get to hers, forcing a sudden death where a coin flip would decide if the men or the women would play. TJ flipped the coin and it decided that we were going to get a rematch between Emily and Kaycee. Knowing that Emily just got the round prior probably put a lot of pressure on Kaycee. But like a true athlete, Kaycee learned from her mistakes in round 2. So when TJ blew the horn, Kaycee got much lower, got better leverage, was able to wrestle and move Emily at her will, leaving Emily in dire straits. When Kaycee tried to run towards her bell, where she was very, very close, Emily grabbed onto Kaycee's foot for dear life and was trying to pull her back, wrestle her back closer to the middle of the hall. But Kaycee was able to wiggle out of Emily's grasp and win round 3, not only winning the elimination, staying in the game, but grabbing her and Troy's ticket for the final. I think the context of this whole season, this whole rivalry between Yes and Emily versus Kiki, Troy, Darrell, and Kaycee, all coming to a head at the very last elimination, which was a hall brawl, a very fun, action-packed hall brawl that went to sudden death. I mean, what more could you ask for? And I think Kaycee was tested to the limit for the first time in her challenge career, going up against Emily and able to get redemption in that round 3 and make it to yet another finals. To me, was the most impressive moment I've seen from Kaycee on the challenge yet. But that is it for Kaycee's top 5 moments. What did you think about this list? Let me know down in the comment section below. Do you agree with this list? Do you not agree with this list? If you don't, leave me a comment why. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on Kaycee's top 5 moments. And now I want to give a special shout out. Thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video up to this point. And I'll be back really, really soon with more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.